Hey, what's up, guys? It's Will back once again for another fight card prediction. We're here for UFC Vegas 27. Rob Font against Cody Garbrandt is our main event this week. Back in Vegas, back in the small cage. And actually, I think it's a pretty good fight card, and I think it starts a little earlier, which is awesome. I think we get the prelims like starting at 8 o'clock our time, which is awesome. Always like to see stuff like that. Apologize for being a few minutes late. My Wi-Fi was being a dick yet again, so maybe I have to look into this, getting this Wi-Fi changed up a little bit because it was kind of playing a fool a little bit. But how are you guys doing? Hope you're well. Hope you're coming off a really good card at UFC 262, which I thought. I know I bet Michael Chandler and I picked Michael Chandler, but I thought it was such a great story seeing Charles Oliveira have that belt round his waist and just the journey that he's went on to get there. So I was really inspired by that. Like I say, I felt like a bit of a fool for kind of betting against Charles because you can see the progression that he was making. So yeah, really, I had a bad week betting wise. Actually, I started off on fire. I cashed a plus 700 Christos Giagos via submission and then lost on Chandler, lost on Jacare, and lost on Shane Burgos. And if you watched last week, you'll see that I picked Edson Barboza. I watched more of the fights as the fight week went on and changed my pick over to Burgos, and that kind of bit me in the ass. So I need to stop doing that. I've got no bets yet for this card, but I'm looking forward to talking about some potential spots that I do like. So I think there's some good underdog bets on this card, in my opinion. So I'm looking forward to getting into it. Hopefully, you guys enjoy my predictions. Let me know if you agree, disagree, what your picks are, what your predictions are, what your bets are, if you have any, or any DraftKings leans that you might have. Anything at all, guys, throw it in the chat. I'll get back to you as I get through this card. It's 13 fights. I think there's a ladies' fight that dropped off within the last couple of hours. The Alpar against Godinez fight's off. So we're now down to 13 fights. Hopefully we can stay there for a DraftKings purpose. More fights, the better. So we're going to be starting off in the lightweight division with Rafael Alves against, in my opinion, one of the dark horses in this division. Damir Ismagulov is up next. And I'm really looking forward to this one because it looks like it's a little bit of punishment to Alves for like severely blowing his weight cut last time out. That was like horrific. That was nearly a full weight class above when he's supposed to face Pat Sabatini. And it looks like he's getting like, you want to do that, you're going to get treated this way. You're going to get an opponent like Damir Ismagulov, who like I said, I think is a dark horse in that division. I think he's a very, very, very good, well-rounded fighter with just to punch on for winning easy decisions, and he's did that in his UFC debut wins over Gorgees, who's no longer in the UFC. Joel Alvarez, which is a good win because Alvarez has shown that he can win fights with his submissions, but he's shown some different skills. Like in the first fight with Gorgees, he's shown that he can take the fight to the ground and kind of dominate with his top position and win majority of the minutes of the fight down or the round on the ground there, and then on the feet, just a solid striker. You've seen that against Moises. I mean, Moises is a guy who I think will be round about that top 15. He's facing Islam Makhachev, so he's going to be in round about there. I really like everything I see with this guy. I think he's got really solid striking. I think he's got grappling there, coming off an injury. He's not fought in nearly a year and a half, so he's been out a long time. Before that, he fought like 3 times in pretty much 8 months. So interesting to see if there's a little bit of rust there. When I look at Alves, very explosive striker, pretty much explosive in a lot of different areas. Very big for the division, but there is spots in there where I'm not severely impressed by what I see. He's a guy with a 19-9 record, so he's taking his licks, he's taking his losses, and came there, and I've seen him being outstruck a little bit. I've seen him being taken down. I've seen him being controlled a little bit. But the guy, when at any time you have to be very careful because he can explode with something and hit you with a big shot and take you out. And that's what he's did in previous fights, or he can jump on guillotines, which I've seen if you go back onto the Titan and FC days. But I think there's Damir Ismagulov is going to absolutely piece him up. I think he's just going to be a level above, which I think he is. So I'm going to go Damir Ismagulov to win another decision there. Another fight I actually quite like here, Damir Hadzovic against Yancy Mederios. Came into this one thinking I actually like Damir Hadzovic because I've always been a fan of his. Actually, he's a guy I've loved watching in Cage Warriors back in the day, coming through. Cashed on him a couple of times as a good underdog in the UFC, and I thought I liked him in this spot here. And then you move over to the Yancy side, and I mean, there's not a lot that you can really like in his previous 3 fights that he's lost against Cerrone, Gregor, Gillespie, and Vanderaa, but I still actually think they're a higher level than what Damir Hadzovic is. I think Vanderaa and Hadzovic would have a competitive fight, but to me at the time, Cerrone was a level above, Gillespie's a level above, and has clear striking advantages and grappling advantages over Yancy. Vanderaa can be a little bit flaky in my opinion. Thought he looked great at the weekend. Kind of gutted that I didn't bet him considering I picked him. But thought he looked great down at 145. Damir's a guy that will stand in there and he will throw some heavy blows, and you have to be careful at all times with this guy. When you look at Mederios, he looked like a little bit like a sitting duck last time out against Lando Vanderaa. He just did not look in that fight. He didn't look in great shape, great mental kind of fortitude. He just didn't look, to me, from the eye test, he didn't look in all that good shape. I think he might have come in there on short notice actually as well, but he got pieced up badly against Lando Vanderaa. Obviously, he got wrestle fucked against Gregor Gillespie, and then, like I said, Cerrone was just a little bit too good for him overall in that spot. But before that, I actually thought he looked as good as he ever has. So it's funny how he's kind of went from where I thought he was the best he ever looked, with wins over Eric Silva and Cowboy Oliveira, and then he's kind of fell off a cliff a little bit. Got himself a new contract after that Oliveira win, and then he's lost his last 3. Clearly, he's had step-ups in there. But now this is the last fight in his contract, pretty much fighting for his UFC career. I expect these guys to have a kind of stand-up brawl here. I think the power is definitely in Hadzovic's side. I think the more technique is a little bit in the Medeiros side. He's got a reach advantage, which I think he can use. I don't see many guys the kind of thing that does worry me, though. I am going to pick Yancy. I'll put that out there. He does absorb a lot of strikes, and I think that Damir maybe has the power to maybe put him down. And we've seen that. Is Yancy maybe at the tail end of his career where he's taking a lot more damage and it's maybe shown, and he can get hurt with it a little bit more. And Hadzovic could come out here and put something on his chin and absolutely end him. He's coming off a couple of losses. There was the Moicano fight where he got dropped and not got dropped, but he got taken down and then got submitted in 45 seconds. He had the Hiagos fight. Hiagos is one of those guys that, like you've seen at the weekend, he's very hittable. I don't think his striking's all that great, but his grappling's okay. A big, strong dude, can go hard for a couple of rounds, and he's got submission skills, and he showed that in the fight with Damir, where he just kind of took him down throughout the fight and won the fight fairly easily there. So, but we've seen a couple of times against Polo Reyes, against Marcin Held. The Held fight, he was getting beat actually, and comprehensive that one, then caught him with a weird knee. I'm going to go with Yancy Medeiros. I think it's a very, very close fight. The betting lines kind of suggest that, and I'm kind of more on the Yancy Medeiros side in that spot there. This is a fight I've not watched a hell of a lot on, for the simple reason that it was just low on my list of fights to watch, and I had time to get the video out today, so I wanted to get it out. But I might change my mind in this pick as the week goes on, but I very much doubt it. Fade UFC Shanghai Performance Institute right now. Maybe give it a year or so to season, and we'll see where we go from there. But we've got Josh Culibao against Shah Yilan, who I thought, right, I'm going to come in and watch these two guy fights, but then I kind of got taken off track with the main event, great main event, Xioanan Esparza, then I had Dvorak Paiva, and then I had Hermansson Shahbazyan. So there's just better fights that kind of took my attention. So you can't watch all the fights all the time, especially on a Monday when you're coming off an event and you're trying to catch up, which I am a little bit. So I'm going to watch as the kind of fight week goes throughout, because you can't. I've got no chance nowadays of spending my full day watching fights. It just doesn't happen, especially with a kid on the way as well. So, but Culibao showed a lot of heart in that last fight against Charles Jourdain, where he really kind of kept himself, kind of got beat up a little bit in the first round, but then really came on strong in rounds 2 and 3 to get that draw against Culibao. Showed a lot of heart in that one there. In the Jalen Turner fight, kind of got beat up pretty badly there. Jalen's a big dude, big long reach, can strike, can grapple a little bit. So it was a bit of a bad matchup to come in there. And that guy picked him in that fight. It was just a terrible prediction on my part. But like I say, I've not seen anything of this Yilan Shah except for a couple of like highlight videos on YouTube, which you can never take too much away from. 19-6 record. Like I say, fighting out of China. But he's coming from that regional scene where we've seen at UFC 262, where the fighters didn't look that great. And I think all three of them lost that fight that they had in that specific card. And then when you look at the guy, he's fighting 3-5s and 10-11s, 9-7s. And he fought a guy called Alexei Olenek, funnily enough, 24-18. So, but that WLF, like, fight promotion and JCK, I think it is, not great promotions, but like I say, I've not really watched all that much of him. When you look at his record there, he's got a lot of kind of wins inside the distance throughout there. But like I say, this is the guy I'm going to watch a little bit more on. Looked at the betting lines, I've seen Josh Culibao a heavy favourite. Now, you never really want to be playing Josh Culibao as that heavy a favourite, but like I say, I've watched nothing of his opponent here. I'm going to pick Culibao, but I am going to, as the fight week goes through, I'm going to pick a fight. I'm going to watch a little bit more on them. This will definitely be one of them. But Culibao is my early prediction in that one there. Bruno Silva against Victor Rodriguez is up next. I think this is a good spot for Bruno Silva, actually inside the distance. I've always kind of liked Bruno Silva throughout his kind of UFC run. I think he's had a bit of a hard time with opponents that he's had, because I think he's had really good opponents, like Khalid Taha's tough. David Dvorak has shown that he's a pretty decent fighter, good striker, and pretty good, really, all over in a fight. So fairly decent. And then Tajir fight, I thought that he was very unlucky not to come away with the W in that one. I thought that I bet Ulanbekov when it went to the decision. I was like, I actually don't think I'm going to get this one. And then Tajir actually came out there and got the kind of judge's decision. And that's something which, to me, recently, it's like betting on fights. It's so hard because the judging is atrocious. Like, it is so bad. Like, Mike Grundy had a 30-27 at the weekend. What the fuck's going on with, like, judging like that, where Lando's getting a 30-27? I think it was 29-28 at the very worst. So yeah, but then JP Buys came in there. His striking looked on point. He looked very crisp. Got a takedown against a wrestler in GPBs, and then just got him out of there in the second round. I remember he scored big on DraftKings. I had him in that one there. So he's turning himself around. I think that was the card I actually won quite big on as well. So I think I had him in a lineup there with probably Huiz, who was on that card and scored very well for me. Rodriguez, not overly impressed with what I've seen of him. Got knocked out against Adrian Yanez away back in October last year. Thought he looked very slow, looked very hittable. Made some kind of bad choices with his defense, especially when he got to the knockout. When he kicked, he's kind of run away, not even looking. The kick comes up and hits him square in the jaw and puts him down. I think he was like against just a guy that had better technique, better specialty on the feet. Just when I look at his record, and coming from that Alaskan kind of fight scene, it's like, what do you really take from that? I mean, I watched some of the fights, and I watched the Mazurek fight where he won the second round, and it's just not inspiring. He's like, he had an 8-1 record, which wasn't a bad record, but before that it was 2-1s, 1-1s. I think Bruno Silva's paid his dues a little bit more than Rodriguez. I think he's more dangerous on the ground. I think he can strike well too. I think he can wrestle a little bit. So I'm on the Bruno Silva side. I actually really like him inside the distance for this one here. But and I'm interested to see kind of where that line opens up. But he is coming in here on short notice. That's always a little bit of a worry when that happens. But I am going to take Bruno Silva for the win. Okay, McGee against Claudio Silva is up next. two elder statesmen of the division, two guys who are definitely closer to the retirement than they are really having many more fights in the UFC, and two guys with very kind of different skill sets. You've kind of got the grinder in Court McGee, and you've got the kind of jiu-jitsu whiz in Claudio Silva, who, I mean, he's been in the UFC for many years, and he's like pretty old, 38, 39 years old. First fight in over a year, since the end of last year, I should say, when he lost to James Krause. But he's a guy that's kind of reeled off wins. I mean, Brad Scott, Leon Edwards is on there, Danny Roberts, Nordin Taleb. On the feet, he's so slow and hittable and predictable that I think Court McGee's going to have a big advantage there. I think, obviously, he's going to want to get this fight to the ground because that's where his skills really show is on the mat. He's very astute down there, good in position, good at kind of keeping position, looking for submissions. And if you give a body part up to this guy, he will take it. I thought that in the Danny Roberts fight, that was the perfect way to fight him, try and brawl with him a little bit. But Danny Roberts' kind of questionable fight IQ kind of came to the fore there and put his head in somewhere where he really shouldn't. Or put his arm in there, that he really shouldn't put his arm in there and kind of got caught with it. Now, I don't know if he was going to win that fight in Danny Roberts, but it was a very kind of close run affair. But he gave the opportunity to Claudio Silva, and he absolutely took it. Cole Williams, nice first round submission there. And like I said, lost to James Krause, who's just he's a good elder statesman of the kind of fight game. You know that he's got great fight IQ, will kind of fight to his strengths, and he did that in that fight there. Court McGee is going to be my pick, guys. I'm not super confident in the pick because, like I say, it's a pick 'em. I think if you can see something pretty clearly and you have a good read on this fight, then I absolutely think you should kind of go for it. But for me, I just like Court McGee to just be a little bit better on the feet, grind it out, don't be silly, don't go to the ground with someone like Silva, because if you go down to the mats with that guy, you're kind of just asking for trouble, in my opinion. So for me, I think that you can just mix it up a little bit more. He's coming off 3 losses. When you look at his losses, Lima's not a great, well, to be fair, Diego Lima's kind of moved himself up to the next level, so that's not the worst loss in the world, but Sean Brady's not a bad loss. Thought he fought tough there. Carlos Condit, I thought that he had a path to victory there by getting takedowns and kind of getting beat by Carlos Condit at this time of your career, where I think that you could have won the fight. He's not the greatest look, but like I say, he's lost 5 of his last 6. This is definitely fighting for his job here, fighting for his career, I actually think, as well. So I'm going to take Court McGee. I'm going to take him via a very, very close decision. I think both these guys will kind of be a bit gassed out, but I think Court's got a little bit more in him to kind of win these fights here. So I'll take Court McGee there. I'm going to have a little look at the chat there, guys. I've just kind of been going on and seeing what's going on here. My boy, Moise, what's up, my man? I hope you're very, very well. Thank you for the donation. It's always appreciated, my brother. And I'm not seeing any I am brew on there, which is something I usually see with that. Death, taxes, and demeanor by decision. I agree, Daniel. Hope you're well. Is Magulov? Yeah. I can see my boy Thomas is in the chat there. What's up, Will? What's up, Thomas? Hope you're well. That Damir versus Held underdog cash was legendary. It was. I thought I was going to lose that one, and then he kind of come out of nowhere with that knockout. So I'd take a shot on Hadzovic. Yancy might have some issues from damage in previous fights. He also struggles with the weight. Absolutely. I can see why you would say that, Daniel. Maybe the under is live. Potentially. Like I say, if Hadzovic lands something clean, I think he can definitely take out Mederios, but I'm going to edge Mederios in that spot there. Ben Rothwell against Chris Barnett. I honestly never thought I would see Chris Barnett, Beast Boy, I think his nickname is, in the UFC. I personally didn't think we was ever going to see him. To me, Chris Barnett is a can crusher at the very best. But he's coming in here on short notice. There are a couple of different opponents for Ben Rothwell, and this is the one that they kind of put together. But when I've went back and watched some of his previous fights, I mean, for a guy that's got nearly 30 fights to be fighting a 0-0 fighter last time out, I mean, that ain't a good look. He's out here losing kickboxing fights, which is fair enough. And then in MMA, he's fighting 5-2 and 5-3 guys. and facing guys that he's beat before as well, back in Road FC and all that island fight. So he's not fighting the greatest opposition, and he's coming in here. He's definitely a striker. He's got some fairly decent kicks. He's kind of athletic for the size of him. If you see him, if you've never seen him before, he can do some kind of crazy shit for being a big dude. But I think this is a really good matchup for Ben Rothwell. Like I said, I think Ben Rothwell is very, very slow these days. He's very hittable. You can get him. He's not got that pop like he had when he was on the juice beforehand. And like I say, he's got a bit of a chin as well. So it's going to take something very, very clean from Chris Barnett, I think, to knock him out. But like I say, it's heavyweights. So one clean shot from Chris Barnett could ultimately kind of take him out. I just kind of like Ben Rothwell. I think he's got some big power. I know I said he's slow, but I think if he was to catch the chin of Chris Barnett, he could knock him out. I mean, you go back to probably a couple of years ago and Chris Barnett's getting knocked out by Alex Nicholson. He's getting knocked out by guys that have got 3-3 records. So it's like the guy can be knocked out and you don't know really. He's getting a big opportunity coming here in the UFC. Like, this is someone I literally thought he would never, ever have a shot, but with people falling out, the chances become more and more realistic, and he's got his opportunity here. I like Ben Rothwell. I'm going to pick him via knockout, actually. I think that he lands a clean shot on Chris Barnett. Like I say, if you gave me a bet to say that Chris Barnett is in the UFC by the end of by this time next year, I would take your bet and say no. I don't think he would be, because I just don't think he's a UFC caliber heavyweight in my opinion. But nice to see him get his opportunity. I just think that Ben Rothwell's going to knock him out. Ricardo Ramos against Bill Algeo. This is a fight that got rebooked after I think Ramos caught COVID away back. I think only a month ago. Yeah, 1 month ago. So not even that long ago that these guys were scheduled to fight. A month later, they've got everything out of the road there, and they're back in here. And I quite like Bill Algeo in this spot, but I think it could play out quite close. I've always been admired, if you've listened to me break down or talk about Ricardo Ramos in any specific way, I think that he's got a lot of talent there. And I think when he starts to put it all together, I think he will be a very, very good and very dangerous fighter. Sometimes to me, and this even goes back to his days when he's losing to Manny Vasquez, where big spotlights on him and he kind of shit the bed in that one there. Got his opportunity to come to the UFC, started off well, beat Mishinoni Tanaka, beat him by decision, stopped Eamon Zahabi with an absolutely beautiful performance on the night, spinning back elbow. Won a very close split decision against my boy Kyung Ho Kang, who I'm a big fan of. Then got knocked out with a beautiful body shot against Said Nurmagomedov. And then he's kind of came in here with a couple of wins over lesser kind of talented guys than I think that he fought, like your Kangs and so on. I think Kang's a good fighter in my opinion. Maybe I'm a big fan of his, but Johnny Newson's tough. Took a lot of shots off Ramos in that fight there. And in the Gary Gorey fight, you've seen that he's got some really legit jiu-jitsu skills if he can get the fight there. Before losing to Lerone Murphy, who's turned out to be a guy that I never ever thought, and like I said, I didn't really know much about him, but he's really testified himself in the UFC with wins over Ramos, Douglas De Silva, D'Andrade. But I really like what I see from Algeo. I like the way that super aggressive, coming off a great fight against Ricardo Lamas, it would have been Spike Carlisle, I should say, and then before that he had Ricardo Lamas. A really back and forth fight with him and Spike Carlisle, but he really just looked the superior fighter in there once it kind of the longer the kind of fight went. He's a guy that I think could do a bit of business in the UFC and actually cause some problems for some fairly decent fighters. I mean, I've seen him in the Dana White Contender Series against Brendan Loughnane, who is over in the PFL, started off very, very well there. And I just wondered what his ceiling would be when he came into the UFC. But I thought in the Lamas fight, excuse me, guys, showed a lot of heart in there. Takedown defense, he got taken down by predominantly a wrestler in Lamas. He's got that wrestling background. Got a takedown of his own. Spike Carlisle fight, he showed in that one there that his takedown defense definitely needs some work, because he did get powered down a few times by Spike Carlisle. But he's shown that he's got a lot of heart, can take a shot, can keep on coming. And I think that's what will kind of help him in this one here. I think that if Ramos was to get him down and maybe grab his back, then I'd be worried. But I think predominantly this is going to be a more of a striking-based affair, and I just lean Algeo. I think I like his tenacity, I like his chin. I think he can take a shot better. I don't know what the height and reach advantages are for any of these guys here. So Algeo's definitely the bigger guy at 6 foot, and the reach is kind of pretty much the same with a slight edge to Algeo. Like I say, he does absorb a lot of strikes, Algeo, but he does give a lot out himself. This is one that I'm going to kind of read more into and watch a little bit more as the fight week goes on. But my early lean in that one is Algeo to win that one there. Moving on to the main card. Ooh, this is a great fight. I'm kind of surprised this has maybe not been put up to like co-main event, but it is what it is. Jack Hermansson against Edmen Shahbazyan. Really good fight, interesting fight. Interesting matchmaking for the simple reason that everybody and their dog pretty much seemed to be on Derek Brunson last time out. The UFC obviously put him into a main event spot there where, he came off some highlight knockouts, some great like highlight reel stuff there that you can put on the intros in the UFC and really build this guy up. But kind of got found out against Derek Brunson with that grappling a little bit. But you still have to remember he's only 23, maybe coming on 24, so still a very, very, very young dude. And he might be one of these Charles Oliveira guys that once he really puts all together and knows what he's doing, he could become a legit contender in that middleweight division. But he's definitely got holes in his game that need shored up. I was really not impressed with what I've seen in his early start to his career, because he fought a lot of guys with very bad records. Come on to the Dana White Contender Series, obviously got an early finish there against a guy that's not overly great, but then he came in against Darren Stewart, who's very tough, but I don't think he looked great in that Darren Stewart fight. But he did reel in like 8 takedowns in that fight, which is phenomenal, honestly. But he gassed pretty badly late in that fight there, and kind of was a little bit lucky to come through that one because he was getting hit with some big shots. Then the next 3 fights, Charles Bird, seasoned veteran of the game, came out there, knocked out some vicious elbows as he's trying to get taken down. Jack Marshman just really beat him up with strikes, got the fight to the ground, submitted him there. And then Brad Tavares, just the strikes he was throwing were clean, precise, great angles, great footwork. That head kick come up very, very quickly. Tavares never seen it coming, knocked him out. That's a great win because Tavares is a very tough gatekeeper in that division. Then he got the jump up against Derek Brunson. Now, if you're not ready to be in the top part of that division against the Derek Brunson, then you will get found out, and that's what happened in that one. He could not stick with the grind of Derek Brunson there and couldn't stop the takedowns. You look at Hermansson, he's a little bit of hit and miss in my opinion. He's got some definitive stuff there that can win him fights in the UFC, very opportunistic with submissions. He has some power there, has some wrestling. I think he's got great cardio, and that's where I think that he can potentially win this fight late on. But I think that he has to be very careful early on in this fight because I think Shahbazyan has a lot of tools on the feet that could potentially hurt Jack Hermansson. But I think if Hermansson can kind of come through that early spot, I like him to win late on in these last couple of rounds with his grappling, with his top pressure. And once he gets down there, he's got some of the best ground and pound, I think, in the game, in my opinion. But like I say, I think it's a very close fight. I'm seeing a lot of love for Edmen Shahbazyan, and I can see why, because if he doesn't get taken down, this stays a standing affair, especially early on in this fight, he could definitely, I think, knock out Jack Hermansson. And then Jared Cannonier, where he kind of got beat up a little bit in that fight there early in the first round, really couldn't get his takedowns and kind of got a little bit disheartened from it, and then got knocked out in that second round with some vicious shots. So this is a big win for him coming off the Vettori loss, where, like I say, he got some takedowns in that fight, landed a lot of strikes, but he was a bit of a punching bag to Marvin Vettori, got dropped in that fight. A good step up for Shahbazyan. Do I think it's the right matchmaking? Honestly, no. I don't know. I think they see something in Edmen, but if he comes out here, beats a guy like Hermansson with the people that he's beat, like a Gastelum, your Jackeries, David Branch, let's say, then that kind of adds something to kind of Edmen's side there, that you got a great win over a really good top 15, maybe a top 10 guy in that division. But I am going to lean Jack Hermansson to avoid getting knocked out early and win in the last couple of rounds, either via decision or maybe a stoppage late on in the fight. But my picks, Hermansson, I was kind of thinking about maybe Shahbazyan, but I hope I'm on the right side with Jack Hermansson here, but I don't think I'll be having any bets on that fight at all, but I'll pick Hermansson for the win. This is another good fight. I really like this one. David Dvorak against Raulain Paiva. Two guys, I think, up-and-coming guys in that flyweight division who Dvorak, like I say, I'm not fully sold on, but you can see a lot of talented stuff from him in his fights. Love his striking. I think that he's got really good technical boxing, and he's shown that in the opponents that he's had. And Bruno Silva, where he really outstruck him with some beautiful, nice, clean, long jabs, threw in some leg kicks. Did get taken down a little bit a couple of times in that fight, which I'm a little bit... he'll definitely have to shore that one up. And then the striking affair against Jordan Espinosa, come out there, landed the cleaner shots. Now, I tried to fade him in that fight as well. I think that I just tried to... when I looked at it, I thought, right, if Espinosa comes out here and can use some of that wrestling, which he has a little bit of, but he didn't really try for takedowns in the fight. He was really stopped in his tracks, even getting close to takedowns there, and he just kind of lost the striking affair in that one. But when you look at... I just like him as an overall striker, but I'm not fully sold on him, if I'm being honest with you. Paiva's a guy that I've actually really liked since his UFC inception. I think that he's had some tough losses. The Kai Kara France one, I still think that he probably should have won that fight. The Bontarin fight, that was a little bit unlucky with the doctor stoppage. And then he's beat two guys in his last two, and Mark De La Rosa, who was just never UFC caliber, really outstruck him, knocked him down in that fight. And then in the... what's the guy's name? Double Z. Zhalgas Zumagulov was probably a little bit kind of lucky to maybe come through that. I was watching that one and thinking, I actually leaned Zumagulov, if I'm being honest with you, when I was watching it live. And then I watched it back, I think it was yesterday, and it was a very, very close fight. I could see why it went there. I don't think it was a unanimous decision by any kind of stretch of the imagination, but showing that he can get taken down a little bit. I don't think that Dvorak's going to do that. To me, I think if anybody's going to be going for takedowns in this fight, it's maybe going to be Paiva. When you look at these two here, like, Paiva's big for the flyweight division, got a really good striking from the orthodox stance. This, to me, is a very, very, very close fight with two very talented up-and-coming guys in this division. What I will say from that last fight as well, there was a lot of shit with Paiva going into fight week there. I don't think he had any coaches. Like, with the whole COVID thing, they got stopped in Brazil, so he was the only guy that made his way out to Brazil, had to cut weight, had different guys in his corner. So I think having his regular crew with him is going to help him a lot here. I'm leaning Raulain Paiva. I'm going to take him via a very, very, very close decision. I think it's a very well-matched fight, guys. This is one of the fights I'm looking forward to, because Dvorak's shown that he's a really good up-and-coming fighter in that division, and I've thought for a little while that Paiva's a guy that can potentially reach the top 5 of that division also. So I am going to pick Paiva. I'm going to pick him via a very, very close decision. I think if he can try and mix in some takedowns, I think it would help him a lot. But I think he can win a striking affair as well. So Paiva is going to be my pick there. I'm a little bit surprised by the kind of dog odds on him a little bit as well. I kind of see it as a potential kind of 50-50 fight. So I'll take Paiva in that one. Felicia Spencer against Norma Dumont. Dumont is just, I mean, her missing weight going down to 135 has just been not a good look at all. And she's having to move up to a division that they're trying to kind of fold. And so there's not a hell of a lot for her. And she's jumping in here on short notice. But she's shown against kind of very low caliber opposition. She's still very, very young in her career, still very green, in my opinion. That, I mean, she beat, I mean, Ashley Evans-Smith. Would be classed that as a good win? I really wouldn't. Lost to Megan Anderson. Megan's one of the kind of bigger girls in that division. That would have been a tough fight for her. Felicia Spencer, this fight might actually be a little bit maybe up her street, because Felicia Spencer is going to look to take this fight to the ground. Absolutely, I've got no doubt about it, because that's kind of really her bread and butter, and that's where she's shown in her fights before she went to the UFC. When she's been in the UFC, that's kind of really what it's been. But she got fast-tracked far too quick after beating Megan Anderson and then going against Cyborg. Like, the division's so shallow that one win and you're getting yourself a title fight, and then she's going from Megan Anderson to Cyborg, then Zara Fairn to Amanda Nunes. I mean, you're going from fighting some of the worst girls, not the worst girls, some of the lower caliber girls of the division, to the absolute best girls in the division. I mean, she showed a lot of heart in that Cyborg fight. She showed a lot of heart in the Amanda Nunes side. And fair play to her for that. I think she should roll here, but I'll be interested to see if this hits the mat and she's in a position where her back's on the fence, on the mat, I should say, because Dumont has jiu-jitsu skills. I've watched some jiu-jitsu matches of hers, and she's pretty technical down there. I just don't know whether she's got the size to, if Spencer was to get on top, to really far to maybe explode out of there and get back to her feet. So the lean's going to be Felicia Spencer. I know the line opened quite high and people have been betting down Dumont a little bit, so maybe they see something that I don't. But to me, I like Spencer to kind of wear her out a little bit here and kind of win the fight through our ground and pound, and probably get a stoppage late on, in my opinion. So I've got Felicia Spencer to win that one there. Justin Tafa against Jared Vanderaa. Low-level heavyweight fight where I think the betting line, like, I don't know why you would want to bet Justin Tafa at minus 200. That's quite high. But Jared Vanderaa, when I've watched him, not super impressed. 11-5 record coming off the Dana White Contender Series where, I mean, he won against Harry Hunsucker, who's also in the UFC, and he kind of got blasted out in his early fight as well. He got absolutely demolished by Sergey Spivak. Spivak came in there, just kind of really, to be fair, Spivak is making some big jumps in his game, so maybe I'm kind of taking that away a little bit from Vanderaa. But when I look at this one here, you've kind of got a striker with like a 4-2 record against a guy who's definitely got more fights than what Tafa has. He's got the longer reach, he's the bigger guy. And I'm like, it's like, am I really going to pick Jared Vanderaa here? I mean, he's got some crazy ground and pound if he can get it there. Oh, this to me is like really, really hard to pick. It probably if you're looking at the betting lines, it should probably be dog or pass. I think, like I say, Tafa was a little bit unlucky against Carlos Felipe in that one there. Where I think it kind of went either way. I thought Felipe did enough, in my opinion, to kind of win that fight. But this is one that I've not really watched all too much on. But it could be one of those fights that for DraftKings, someone like a Vanderaa could be very, very live, because he's going to be he's going to be one of the lower guys there where he could have the potential maybe to knock him out, maybe get takedowns. But he's also susceptible to getting taken down and controlled. Spivak showed that. Tafa's not going to do that. He's going to want to stand and bang with Vanderaa. Coin flip fight. I'm going to go with the dog. I'm going to go Jared Vanderaa, even though I hate the pick. Going to be my least confident pick. But if it stays standing, I think he can get paced up a little bit. But I don't know, low-level heavyweight fights, I'm never great with these ones. I'll pick Jared Vanderaa to win via a decision, a pretty low, lackluster decision in that one there. Co-main event of the night, Yan Xioanan against Carla Esparza. Really like this fight. I've tried picking against Carla Esparza for the longest time, and she keeps on doing enough to pit me to the post. But she's definitely one of those girls that if you want to get to that championship fight, you've got to pass her. Like, to me, you've got the obvious big three of Xioanan, Wiley, and Rose Namajunas, and then you've got Esparza just right there, just like a B plus under the A plus players down there, and you try and throw these girls like Rodriguez and so on against her, and she just finds a way. Grasso, but this is the next girl in line, in Yan Xioanan, who I've loved watching in the UFC. I think that she has the potential to be a contender in this division, fighting for the belt. I think she's right there, honestly. This is the fight that could potentially, if she comes out here and looks devastating with her striking, which she's shown in some of her fights. And I don't want to say devastating because she's not taking anybody out. I mean, she's just ran up decision wins very, very convincingly, got very good technique. And it's just a really good overall striker. But I think she's got some spots on her game where a Carla Esparza could potentially win the fight. I mean, you look at her stats running through her run in the UFC. I mean, Kylie Curran, she got taken down in that fight, but she was busting her up on the feet. Clean technique, good kicks as well. Viviana Pereira, a very small girl for that division. Clean technique again, just a clean fight from a very, very unanimous decision there. Kondo beat her up badly, absolutely beat her up with strikes. Angela Hill, now that's a fight you would look at and think, right, Angela Hill, her best skill set is definitely her striking, but Yan Xioanan was just better, and she's shown in that fight that she can go against higher caliber strikers than what she previously faced. Carolina, I think, is at the end of her days. She went in there and showed she got takedowns for days in that one there, and then she made that next jump up to Claudio Gadelia, who I think is definitely moving down a little bit, but she made that jump up kind of seamless. Did get taken down a couple of times, and obviously this is where this fight's won and lost here, because Carla Esparza is not really going to offer a hell of a lot on the feet for Yan Xioanan. Now, it has improved recently, and that's props to her for that, because before that, you've seen when she entered the UFC, I mean, we're going back 6-7 years now, where she won the strap. But then when she came out of the show facing Xioanan, you see which is miles ahead when it came to striking. So if you could stop the takedowns, you were going to beat this girl up. Went through a tough spot, lost a couple of close fights, lost a split to Claudia, lost to the best grappler, I think, in the division, and Tatiana Suarez, who just ragdolled her in that fight. But then it's really come in and been very solid against tough girls. Jandaroba's a grappler by trade. She did more in that fight with her striking and her wrestling one of that fight. The Grasso one, again, you don't want this fight to be standing. That was against a better striking Esparza. She landed her shots in that one, but her takedowns won of the fight. Michelle Watterson, close fight yet again. Very, very close numbers between them both. Got the takedown, and it's little things like that can win these fights. Marina Rodriguez got hit up a little bit, but she used her striking. She used her grappling, her wrestling, I should say. This is what she has to do here. If she cannot get takedowns on Xioanan, now I think she can. All she has to do, in my opinion, is get, and Xioanan shown that she can get back to her feet as well, which is decent on her part. But if she can get takedowns and win these very, very close rounds, I think she's very live, in my opinion, to win a decision. I think that if she gets a couple of takedowns in either the first couple of rounds or any rounds at all, I think she can win the round. So to me, it's a very, very, very close fight. I'm seeing a lot of love for both girls, honestly. The betting line has come down in Carla from plus 160. She's plus 120 here in the UK. She's going to be my pick, and I never really pick Carla Esparza all that much. I try and fade her. I tried it against Grasso. I tried it against Rodriguez, and she just finds a way to win fights, and I think she can find a way to win this one here, but we might see Yan come out here, be the best ever with her striking. If she can stop takedowns, she's going to beat up Carla Esparza, because Carla, even though she's made improvements, I just don't think she's on the level of Yan Xioanan there. But I'm going to pick her to get takedowns and win spots in these rounds, maybe a couple of minutes either round, and squeak out a decision. I think if it's a close fight with that, she can get a split like she has in previous fights. Carla Esparza is going to be my pick in that one there. And the main event of the night, really good bantamweight encounter here between Rob Font and Cody No Love Garbrandt. I'm really excited to see both guys back, actually. But I've been a big fan of Cody Garbrandt since he entered the UFC, long before the UFC actually, and I called him as a champion when he came into the organization. And it's been a tough road being a Cody Garbrandt fan recently, because I mean, I think he's got some of the most elite boxing speed, power in the division, but he has a weak chin. He has some questionable fight IQ. And I think he can be baited into different fights. Now, if he was to stay composed and stuck to a game plan, and that's what I really liked out his last fight. Didn't come out there all guns blazing against Asun Sao. Really kept it simple, kept it technical. Like I say, he's got great boxing and great power and great speed. And when you have that, it all kind of mixes well into being a really good, devastating striker, and he's shown that. Now, it was a little bit tentative for Cody, and that's maybe something that being with Mark Henry has maybe kind of slowed him down, saying, like, pick your shots better. Don't get into these encounters where you're throwing bombs back and forward, because we've seen that if he gets hit with something clean and nice, then he can just turn that off when he needs to get it back, and that's when he gets knocked out. It happened with TJ Dillashaw twice. That first fight, he had TJ out of there, and then just got knocked out silly in that second round, and then just tried to go after him. The second fight didn't work out well. Started off the fight with Munoz well, and then as soon as one clean shot from Munoz got him, he had to get it back in it. Just started into a war, and he got caught with the more devastating shot. And then, like I say, unbelievable knockout of Asun Sao. Just ripped that right hand over the top. Big baseball, big sling right over the top there. Banged him straight in the chin. Put him out cold. And now he's got Rob Font here. I've spent the afternoon watching Rob Font fights. Really good striker. Really good technique in both sides, his left and his right hand. Good educated jab. Good counter striker at points as well. But if I was to put them side by side and just boxing, I still lean Cody Garbrandt with his. I think he's got a little bit cleaner technique, and with the power and the speed, I think that if he keeps it composed, doesn't kind of get baited into the wrong type of fight, then I think that over the space of 25 minutes, and he fights to a solid game plan, then I think he can absolutely win rounds off Rob Font. I absolutely think he can knock out Rob Font. Now, I watched a couple of fights of Rob Font this afternoon where, I mean, you watched the Moraes one. You get taken down a couple of times, and Moraes didn't look... He looked like he was still feeling the effects of the Cody Sanhagen knockout, but got the job done with a beautiful shot in the feet and then knocked him out with ground and pound. You watch what's the fight I was watching? Pedro Munoz was landing clean early. Now, Pedro's defense always lacks in fights. You can always get to him. But eventually got hit with a shot that kind of stumbled him, came back off the cage, got caught in a guillotine choke very, very quickly. Asun Sao put him down very, very briefly in their fight by catching him with clean counter strikes. So he can be caught, and I'm not 100% sold on his chin. I think that if you catch him with the right shot, you can absolutely put him down. For me, it's whether Cody can keep his head. If he can keep his head, I think as a technical striker, I actually think as a wrestler as well, if he decides to use that, because I watched Marlon Moraes use his wrestling, get him down. Who was the other guy that I watched? Sorry, let me bring it up, because that was one of the fights that I watched. Was it Ricky Simone? Oh, I can't actually remember now. Ricky Simone. Now, Ricky's obviously a grappler. He got him down a few times there, but he was kind of getting really pieced up in the feet. I think Cody, if he can put it all together with his striking, mix in some wrestling, because that takes the pressure off your chin, getting knocked out down there. Now, I know that Rob Font's kind of tried to really improve his ground game with kind of Joe Lowe's on, but I still don't think it's devastating enough to really maybe submit a Cody Garbrandt, but maybe saying like Cody's sometimes makes kind of bad decisions, so he might put his head or his arm in somewhere where he shouldn't. But we've not really seen that from Garbrandt, where he really wants to sit in and grapple and use that wrestling that he had coming through his kind of regional days. He always had his power, but before his regional days, I think in Ohio he used to do a bit of grappling and stuff like that. But Like I say, he had one takedown against Cruz, which was, 5 years ago now, which is kind of crazy to think that fight was 5 years ago. So he's only had the 4 fights in the 5 years or so. I'm going to pick Cody Garbrandt. I just see him being cleaner. I see him being, again, it's making assumptions here because I'm thinking that he's going to come in here and fight a smart game plan, a smart fight, when really, if Font's landing at will, then it could turn Cody and could flick the switch where he just goes into berserker mode and then he's wide open for shots there. Now, he can land them, but he can also get hit with them. So the chin is a big, scary thing with Cody Garbrandt. I think that's always going to be the case with him, unfortunately. But I think this is a matchup he can win. So I'm going to pick him via knockout in the middle part of this fight. Rounds 3, rounds 4. But I also think he can win out a decision pretty comfortably as well if he fights to a solid game plan. But again, it's Cody Garbrandt fighting to a solid game plan. That might not really be the case, but we'll see here. So that's my picks, guys. I'm going to go into the chat here just briefly and see what everyone's up to. UFC Ben Experience, what's up? They keep looking for bums to give to Ben. That's true. I like Ramos' skills, not his chin, though. Rothwell via standing guillotine. Daniel Edwards is Edmen by KO is a nice underdog bet. His wrestling only looked weak in the Brunson fight. That's true. Yeah, I suppose you could probably say that. What's up, Jason? Fight doesn't go to decision. Brian's saying there. Jason's liking Shahbazyan there. I think it's good matchmaker making to answer questions. I mean, if they think they see something with this guy, then I'll maybe build him back up. But maybe I don't know. I'd love to like sit in these matchmaking affairs and see how they kind of get around to certain matchups. But we will see. So, guys, I've been here for 50 minutes. Wow, that went really quickly there. This is quite a long breakdown. I didn't really want to go this long, but it is what it is. Thank you for you guys that have been in the chat here. Much appreciated. Until next week. What have we got next week, actually? Have we got the big boys? I think we have. Rosenstruck against Augusto Sakai. We've got that up next. Walt Harris, Marcin Tybura. So we've got some fairly half-decent fights. Mason Jones is back, which I'm looking forward to. Until next week, guys, throw a like in the video if you can. Much appreciated. All the very best, and take care.